What happened to MMOs? Well, let's find out.
If you're anything like me, odds are you've been waiting quite some time now for a new MMO to come along that's totally engrossing. Something
Yes,
that immediately
actually.
hooks you because it's fun to play, the world is immersive, there are novel elements that make the game feel new and exciting. On top of that, all your friends are playing, it's the only thing you want to talk about and the only thing you care to do with your free time, and maybe
True.
even much of your not so free time as well. You know the feeling very well, actually, because it's happened to you before. You can actually look back and point to various games in your past that conjured up this exact situation. But it's been a while, maybe too long even. And you know, that's because there are
Oh, it's been far too long. Man, why do you have to pull on those heartstrings so much? We all want this.
never any new MMOs coming out, right? Like we just keep playing the same games over and over again.
Huh.
Well, what if I told you there are actually over 40 new MMOs and MMO lights being developed at this very moment? You'd
That's
probably say
a
I'm full
lot.
of it, but I'm not. Look at this list. Every single game here is confirmed to be
Chase
in
2.
development right now. Many of them even claim to be releasing in the next 1 to 2 years. On one hand, you
Oh, unannounced MMOs. Look at this. Amazon Lord of the Rings MMO, Riot MMO. The Riot one is gonna be amazing, guaranteed. The Amazon one could be pretty good. You know, they did learn a lot from New World being an absolute disaster and still being a disaster. And Blizzard Survival MMO could also be good. I'm not looking forward to it that much, but it does sound like it could be pretty reasonable. Man, this is what you call an oversaturated market. Let's hope something actually pops off and does take our breaths away.
could actually say there's never been a better time to be an MMO fan. I'm fairly certain, actually, there has at least never been a time where we've had so many new MMOs in active development that we were aware of. Even excluding all of the MMO lights, there are at least 30 of the more traditionally structured MMOs on the list, and there's almost certainly some games I missed or forgot. I mean, it is nuts, but at the same time, how many of these games are most of us going to be playing for more than a week or two?
Not much.
I don't know. Probably not a lot of them. And boy, is that, well, that sure is something and a bit disappointing, right? Like, from my perspective as a player, knowing full well many of the pitfalls most of these games will stumble into, the result of which being, I'll probably...
He means microtransactions, bad mechanics, overblown leveling, pay to win. There's a lot of pitfalls we need to overcome before an MMO actually is good. And you know, the combat can be good, the graphics can look amazing, everything can be good, but maybe the developers have just, sliced a little bit too much and put it behind a paywall for it actually to all make sense. And that's the real problem we're facing, honestly, nowadays.
Probably just play them for a few days, maybe a week or two, then I'll be done. It's really hard for that reason to get too excited from most of what we see here. I still follow it, and I am interested in these games, and I will check them out, don't get me wrong, but I would be pleasantly surprised if even one or two of these games actually deliver on that feeling and experience I know myself, and probably many of you out there are looking for. And that is not me saying that these are necessarily going to be bad games. I don't think that. I don't think that playing a game for just a couple of weeks is even a bad thing. In fact, it's almost preferable in a lot of cases.
This is now what we do. This is why seasons are so important in games like Diablo and Path of Exile. It's literally meant so. It's a good game at its base. You play it for a week or two, you get bored, and the new season comes and you can play it again. That's like what's currently happening. And by the way, this is Dune. The Dune MMO could... We watched this. The Dune MMO could be pretty spicy because the developers are sounding very Dune focused. So that's pretty neat.
We swim in a never-ending glut of games. There are more new games released every year than I even have time to play. All of this added onto the backlog of games that I'll probably never find the time to get to either. And doing gaming stuff is my full-time job. people who have other full-time jobs, it's certainly even much, much worse. As I've talked about before, there's just not enough time to play all of the games, even all of the good games, let alone some of the mediocre and bad ones. So yeah, not every game needs to last forever. Most games won't. It's unrealistic. And I don't even really want that from most of my games, most of the games that I play. But man, when one comes along that really sinks its hooks in, it is something else. I love it. It's one of the experiences that makes gaming as a hobby so very special, barring that experience also doesn't simultaneously destroy every other aspect of my life. Happens on a...
It's a reasonable sacrifice, I think, to make. It's completely fine, you know? Hey, if something's worth that much, let the price be paid.
Occasion. I've been there. Don't worry, guys. I get you. And, you know, from MMOs, our expectation level is certainly higher than just a few days to a week, especially with how big and expansive these games are supposed to be and how long they spend in development. We go in wanting a lot more than that, but the fact of the matter is most things won't deliver that, and even if most games could, you would only play but a fraction of them. So we are just looking for those pinnacle experiences in gaming to come along. So realistically, looking at that list that I showed you earlier, yes, I don't expect many of these games will keep me around for very long. Most of this list I will play for a few days to a week to check them out, to have my fun or not have fun, and then I'll move on. Will any of them last longer than that?
Some.
I don't know. I mean, even if I had to make a prediction, it is very hard to tell. You really just never know what game will come along at just the right time with just the right elements to be something that you sink your teeth into. That sort of guesswork is what investors do all day professionally, deciding where to place their money, where to put their bets on which game will become the next Minecraft, the next Fortnite, the next Call of Duty, you name it. It ain't easy to predict this kind of thing. If it was, we'd have a whole lot more millionaires. It's even harder with indie games. Like, very few people predicted the success of, say, Valheim or Vampire Survivors ahead of time, but when they launched and people got to play and word...
Well, those people didn't actually predict anything. They just found a game that they really, really liked. And the thing is, by the way, none of us have time to do this, but the brutal reality is like this. The perfect game for you most likely already exists. And it's been out for probably 5+ years at this point. The thing is, you're not looking for it, because looking for it honestly takes way too much time and is way too hard. One of my favorite MMORPGs of all time is literally Rift. And those of you who have played it, you probably don't like it. But I absolutely enjoyed that game to an unreasonable degree. It was good in every way. But that's not the thing for everyone, you know? Each person needs to find their own thing, and maybe you find it, maybe you don't. That's the gamble.
Got around, it was immediately pretty clear that there was something special there. The safest bets, like if we're playing it safe, it's always going to be some of those big budget games, the AAA games. They, at the very least, tend to have a better than average chance when it comes to many of the crowdfunded or indie MMOs on the list here. As we all know, though, AAA budget doesn't always mean AAA gameplay experience. It just sets the bar a little higher for what we can expect from the visuals, from the animation quality.
I can tell you from playing New World, like, New World does very much correctly, but what it does correctly, like gathering and, you know, a decent sense of progression, it does that good enough that you want to keep on playing, you know, at least for a bit. You know, AAA games do not a lot correctly at times, but when they do something correctly, it's enough to actually keep you engaged at the bare minimum, and that's worth something.
From the size of the world, from the game's polish, all of those things, the bar is just a little higher, and for that reason, yes, it's got a better chance. And it's for that reason that I've got higher hopes for a lot of these unannounced MMOs from the bigger studios. We're talking Riot Games, League of Legends based MMO, the MMO from the Elder Scrolls Online. Okay,
the League of Legends MMO is the only MMO you honestly should be excited about. Because Riot is not gonna let that fail. Oh, no. If needed, Riot will start literally from nothing to make that thing happen. The Riot MMO is gonna be a success. No matter how long it takes them, no matter what they must do, it is gonna be a success. No questions about it. Because they will pump money into it change everything until the point where it succeeds.
Online studio, ZeniMax Online Studios. They're making a brand new MMO. We've got the Horizon-themed MMO from Sony. We've got Blizzard's survival game, and then there's the laugh if you want, but yes, the Amazon Lord of the Rings MMO. Hey man, if they can take parts of New World and craft that into a Lord of the Rings setting and just make it better, I mean, again,
yeah, that
like
would
with
be
most
good.
of these games, I'll definitely check it out. That said, any of these could fail miserably. Again, because AAA budget doesn't mean AAA user and experience. It could be garbage, and a few of these likely will fail miserably.
Yeah.
Don't say Amazon. Okay, fine, you can say Amazon. They deserve
True,
it.
though.
But again, I would say that I have better than average expectations from these games compared to the slew of the crowdfunded and indie MMOs that are on the list. I will say I do also have some hopes for a lot of these MMO lights. Some of them I think are quite promising. Near the top would be Dune Awakening. I love Warframe enough to be very interested in what they do with Soulframe. And I also think Nightingale seems pretty darn promising. That one's very narrowly made this list of what we call an MMO. But anyways, but just about every MMO light actually that you see here, I am interested in playing for at least a little while. When it comes to that main list though, of those confirmed, more what we would consider traditional MMOs, ones that kind of live up to the...
By the way, question, what do you consider MMO nowadays? Because the lines are so blurred. What I consider an MMO is something where you are not playing alone, you have people around you, there's an open world, there's leveling, there's a level cap, and there's endgame activities that you're supposed to do in groups, aka like dungeons and raids. That's what I consider an MMO. I know it's kind of broad, but again, I think the line is so blurred now, what is considered an MMO and MMORPG, that it doesn't honestly even matter.
General infrastructure and what we think of as a classic MMORPG like World of Warcraft and everything in that vein. That main list of 30 or so games, I mean, that is a massive grab bag. It's really hard to say. I do expect a majority of them will fall into the couple of weeks tops category. That's what
obviously,
I would expect,
yeah.
with maybe a few of them breaking through beyond that. But I don't have a ton of long-term hope for most of these, unfortunately enough to say. Yes, even the online MMO fanboy poster child that is Ashes of Creation, even that, I mean, I hope
it does look decent currently, though.
I'm really not placing my bets as of yet that it's going to be like a savior of the genre. It will be probably a niche popular game for at least a few months for that crowd. 1, 2, 5 years down the road, is it?
Oh, by the way, why am I looking forward for Ashes of Creation? Because it does resemble Rift quite a bit with their class system, so I'm very much interested in that.
Going to maintain a sizable player base? Who knows? But who knows with most of this stuff? It is all just guesswork. But I mean, I hope they're all good. I hope every game's good. Every game on this list. Surprise me, please. All be amazing pinnacle MMO experiences. That's not going to happen, but I would love it. So, how do we get here? Like, seriously, we got a list of 40 MMOs, a good chunk of which launching in the next 1 to 2 years, and many of these games took, you know, anywhere from 5 to 7 to, like I said, over 10 years to develop, and I'm not expecting a vast majority of them to last me more than a couple of weeks of playtime. Well, there's a lot of reasons and a lot of ways and explanations to how we got there. I'm sure you've seen the slew of YouTube video essays talking about why gaming today sucks. The videos that basically more or less boil down to, hey, things were kind of better when I was a child and had fewer responsibilities. Well, yeah, no duh. When it comes to this particular topic of gaming sucks today, I am not a full-blown doomer on this discussion point. I think gaming is still amazing, and in fact, in many ways, a lot better than it's ever been. The quality and the expansiveness of so many games, there's a lot of high-quality games coming on every single year, and it's a real exciting time to play and be a fan of this hobby. And as I mentioned earlier, there are way too many good games that you just don't have time to play. There are so many games that people rave about, that people are obsessed with, that people play for years and years on end, that I've barely or never touched, and likely, I know I will eventually go to the grave never touching a lot of these amazing games. So we can't say that gaming sucks because it's just an expanding library, except for the ones that...
Is that piece of hair gonna stick in his eye again?
Got shut down. That's another video, right? I would say that in general, gaming is in a really good spot. But yes, in a lot of ways, many parts of it do suck. Or at the least, gaming and how we approach gaming and the games industry, it's quite different than how it was when we were weak kinders. Games in general are different. If I were to try to distill it into like one sentiment, I would say that games used to feel like games developed primarily for the sake
Oh,
of
Age of
delivering an
Conan.
experience to the player, which they would sell you. Yes, this was always a business. Typically, there would be a single upfront cost. Maybe later they would sell expansions. So yes, you had to pay, of course, but the game still felt like it came first for a long time, for much of my childhood and my adolescence, and even when I was a young adult. Many games today feel a lot more like they're just vehicles for monetization, with the hope being for like the
Battle
MMO live
passes.
service genres that you will stick around and keep playing and paying more over time. Now sure, they still need to make a game that you enjoy that keeps you around playing in order to monetize you further, but monetization being at the forefront of the entire endeavor, I think has left a lot of modern games feeling that very way. Like it permeates into the design and bleeds into the user experience. And this isn't some anti-business, anti-profit rant either. People got to get paid. It's how these...
Oh, I hate this. People gotta get paid and companies need to... Bruh, they're literally making billions. Gaming companies are literally paying their CEOs tens of millions every single year. I think they're making enough profit, okay? I think they could cut back on the profit by more than half and still do completely fine.
Things get made in the first place, even back in the day. But I will say that it did feel in the past like the games were being made primarily by people who loved gaming and wanted to craft their own unique experiences for other people who love gaming to enjoy. Now though, because the industry is so massive, it's like the biggest entertainment industry bar none, right? It feels like most of the people involved in the endeavor of making games are just here for the buck. And no, I'm not talking about the developers at all. It's well known, in fact, game dev pays far below what most of these people could make if they went into other industries. But whatever their passion is for the hobby and for the craft of making games, it does seem like it gets pushed to the wayside when the higher-ups, the ones paying the bills, chime in to what sort of systems the game needs to have, what methods they need to employ to keep people playing. When they're hiring psychologists to develop these properly paced out intermittent reward schedules to keep us on that dopamine drip, to keep us playing, to keep us swiping the card. Boy, lots of fun, yeah? The systems games need to have, the methods they use to keep us playing, and how they're going to cash in on all of that. It is a big part of the reason, and like I said, it really bleeds into the experience of the game and takes away from the game itself. It is why, when something like Elden Ring comes along, it feels like a breath of fresh air for so many people. I'll just speak for myself. It felt like I was stepping back in time. I just got a game, the game was great, I played the game. Damn, what year is it?
And he went to watch some hentai. It's true. It's probably true and you know it.
What year did Elden Ring come out? 2000? Of course, there's a lot of things that made Elden Ring great. There are plenty of YouTube video essays about that very topic. All of those things combined with the simplicity of the transaction. I give you money, you give me good game, I enjoy good game and have fun. Nice doing business with you. No cash shop, no further monetization, no season pass, none of that stuff. It's just the game. The game's there. The UI isn't intrusive trying to get me to go to the shop. I'm not logging in and seeing 17 pop-ups that show me the recent activities that I can, some of which pay money
It's like he's trying to personally attack EA and Ubisoft currently.
for. Just a game that I hop in and I play, and all of that combined with Elden Ring being a good game, oh man, it was definitely a big part of, at least, again, speaking personally, what made the experience of playing Elden Ring feel so refreshing against the sea of modern game design. Beyond game...
Admittedly, I will say one thing about that. It's the fact that games like Elden Ring are not like popularly made a lot, you know. There's 10 World of Warcrafts released every year. There's 20 Call of Duties released every year. There's 20 racing games released every year. But Elden Ring does not come that often, which also makes it just so much honestly better. And for some reason, my headphones just decided to literally die off. Very peculiar. What you doing there, Chief? Why did you just die? Did you get bored of living? Nope, it's back. It's
Games being
back,
different,
boys.
the internet's different as well. For one, it didn't actually really exist when I first started gaming. So if I wanted news or info on the latest NES game, I had to typically get that from a magazine in most cases. Eventually, yeah, we got home internet, but gaming sites were a rare commodity. Usually what we were talking about were like fan pages. I made pages on Angel Fire for like Warcraft 3, or going to forums where people would just talk about the games that they enjoyed. But today, with the constant internet access, with our phones in our pockets, how you learn about games, how you follow updates, how you get news, the guides, the tips, the full playthroughs on YouTube, learning about data mined information and leaks from YouTube videos, streamers who are speed rushing and beating the game in the first day for the entire world to see. The arc of first hearing about a game to when you actually sit down and play the game, it is way, way different now than it was, say, back when I was a kid and I walked down to my friend's house and he told me about this new game called EverQuest that his mom just bought him for.
Bro, remember the days when your friend's mom bought him a game and then you went to his house and it was shit, but it was the only thing that was and existed, and you were like, "Oh my god, this is so good!" And then you begged your mom for a game, or you asked his CD, and then you you could both play it. Oh, those were the days, boys. What a time to be alive. Hot Seat in Heroes 3. Good times.
For his birthday, and then I sat down for 8 hours watching him play and enjoyed every minute. The way we consume gaming as a hobby, the way we follow gaming as a hobby is way different. It's way more tuned in, and it's way more oversaturated, and I think that also plays a big role to the enjoyment that we get the moment we actually get to sit down and finally play the game. But just as, if not even in many ways more important, in my opinion, is the fact that yes, games are different. The games industry is different. Yes, the presence of the internet is different.
You know what matters nowadays? Hype. You know? If something's coming out and the hype is big, that does make you want to play the game more. It just works like that. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way life is. Hype matters. It's a strange thing, and it's a new age thing, but it's true. Currently, if there's a lot of hype around the game, you're going to probably want to play it way more than if there was no hype.
But lastly, we're different. The way that we approach games, the way we consume games, and what we expect from games today compared to when we were younger is just vastly different in most every measure. The frequency, the intensity, the speed. We're all also just better at games today than we were in the past, which you would hope, obviously,
also
for those of us who have racked up like decades of experience in the hobby. As we learned not too long ago with the release of Classic WoW, World of Warcraft wasn't a terribly difficult game. It's just that at the time when we started playing in 2004, everything sucked. Our computers sucked and struggled to maintain a good frame rate, causing us to always stand in the fire. The internet sucked, causing frequent lag spikes and dropped connections. And yes, we sucked. We were just bad at playing MMOs and probably bad at playing games in general. And for today, all of that has improved. The games run better, well, for the most part, barring any bad PC ports. Internet speeds are way better, so we've got steady connections more of the time, and we also have nearly 20 more years time playing games than we did when we first booted up vanilla World of Warcraft. With time comes experience. With that experience comes a loss of novelty. As far as I'm concerned, lack of novelty is one of the primary driving factors to why so many people can say that gaming isn't fun anymore compared to when it was when they were younger. The more games you play, the more you see. The more you see, the less novel new game experiences are. Let me ask you, have you ever found yourself sitting down and playing a game for the first time and thinking, feels like I've already played this? It's partially true because so many games borrow ideas, structure, gameplay, systems, and features from one another that many times they all start to bleed together. And when things aren't novel, it is very hard to keep you engaged and to hold your attention. We crave variety and novelty, just in general, but this also applies to our hobbies and gaming. And both of these things are massive drivers in the motivation and desire to continue to pursue something, to, in this case, continue playing a game, to stay engaged and spend more time with it. And the fact is, the more experience you have, the more games you've played, the harder and harder it becomes for new games to surprise you. Because yes, in most cases, you have seen it all before. Even if you sit down and a brand new, one of the games on this list, a brand new MMO just launches, you sit down for the first time, you're probably going to get some serious deja vu. You're going to think...
Yeah, and one of the worst parts about this is you start the game and the combat the combat seems like something you have already played a million times, because it is something you have played a million times. That is such a thing that just takes away from your experience. It's sad that happens.
Think, oh boy, I've already done this fetch quest. I've already spoke to this NPC. I've already gone through this training. I've already fought this boss. You haven't technically, but you may as well have, because it's all so similar enough to one another to might as well be the same. And it is really with that in mind and the key importance the novelty plays into getting enjoyment out of gaming. It is because of that I try to remember some newly released game that feels super old hat.
I think a lot of games, by the way, try to do this. They try to capture, they try to make something new and whatnot. But most everything is completely already experienced by the biggest part of the player base, so it doesn't matter. Trying to make something new, I think, is a waste of time in a lot of cases. Your tab target combat is called tab target combat for a reason, and there's no way you're gonna make it different, okay? Action combat is action combat for a reason, and you're never gonna make it different. But instead of making it different, I think they should honestly just try and make it feel good. Because as long as it feels good, that's important. For example, when I was young and I was playing World of Warcraft, I could not play. I don't remember even what now I couldn't play. Was it a troll rogue or was it an orc rogue? Because I hated how it looked like when you were stealthed. I think it was orc. I couldn't play orc because I just hated how you looked when you stealthed. And that's a big deal. Make it so your characters all feel fluent and look good while running, while attacking. Those things are more important than actually making new baseline experiences, because you're probably going to fail at the experiences, but can you make it a good experience? That's a different question, and I think that's something that these games should concentrate on.
That to me is going to be some kids' first time with a genre, first time with a game type, first time with features and mechanics that will leave a lasting impression on that person. And I find it helpful when it comes to trying to enjoy games and trying to continue to enjoy the hobby after so many years. Doubly so, being that this has been my career, following games and playing games for coming up on 13 years now I've had here on YouTube. I've spent a lot of time playing games. I've spent a lot of time talking about games, a lot of time covering games to try to really continue to enjoy it after all this time. Even if everything isn't entirely novel, it can be tough, but I think mindset does play a big role. As for these upcoming MMOs, the games on the list that we talked about here today,
how does the Alliance honestly even stand a chance against the Horde if they have torrents that can technically just run through 5 people in a suicide attack, and that's reasonable casualty rates?
I'll obviously still hope that the developers themselves, the ones in charge of creating these games, do manage to craft something to create an engaging, immersive, and a novel enough experience that even someone as jaded old gamer as myself can be entertained with for at least some time. Although I still, of course, hope that every once in a while we get a game that comes along that does really craft a super unique experience that rekindles some of that flame and has us sort of go back to the first time we experienced whatever your equivalent to World of Warcraft is to me.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, if you are struggling with finding games that keep you engaged and games that you're interested in, and you're not wanting to go back to games that you've already played, look no further than games that other people rave about. I think that a lot of times we look on the horizon to what games that haven't been released that are upcoming, and we put a lot of hope in those, while neglecting a lot of these super...
Dude, this game's MMO is gonna be so lit. When you press male, it's gonna be a male. When you press female, it's gonna be a male. Yeah, if you did not know, Ubisoft is very fans of thinking that women have, hair over all of their bodies and that they look like muscular men. So so I'm gonna call that a disaster right there off the start, boys. Not gonna lie.
popular games with huge fan bases, games that are critically acclaimed, games that are cult classics. There's a lot of games out there I know for myself that I've yet to touch that people rave about, and I'm sure you're the same way too in the MMO genre and in other genres. And if you're having a hard time finding motivation and finding excitement in gaming, try checking those games out. Try checking those older games.
Good advice. Good
We've
advice.
heard people speak about over the years that you just never got around to playing. That's probably my best advice for you, but also for myself. That said, we keep our fingers crossed and we hope for the best for the new stuff on the horizon, and we'll see which games on this list deliver. That does it.
True. Well, that's Force Gaming. Very good video. Wow. This one was really good. Kind of hits the member berries, huh? In any case, this was Quizzer Sensei. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.